Today is the day I make my predictions for the opening weekend of the Marshall League and the Ontario Women's League. We'll have a look at the previous matchups and see if I can predict 100%. Welcome back to Pitchside with myself, Sean Ryan Radio, the podcast focused on grassroots rugby across Canada. And we are back making predictions. I'm super excited about this one because we're 2 weeks away from kickoff, and I'm locking my predictions in early for the opening week because what better time to do it? I don't think there's going to be too much change in the next 2 weeks that is going to change my opinion of what's going to happen, my predictions. So I feel very comfortable about it, and I can't wait to express my opinions with you in terms of how things are going to shape up after this first weekend. Now, if you do like what I do, you do want to support me, make sure you check out my Ko-Fi in the link in the bio. You know what to do. Check it out if you want to support me. Now, quick mention before we dive into this episode and do predictions. If you've just jumped onto this podcast and you're like, I don't know what the Marshall League is, what the Owl is, I want to learn more about it, or the Ontario Women's League for anybody who doesn't know. Check out episodes 2 and 3. That's where I dive into a bit more of how the structure is shaped up for this upcoming season, the teams involved, and some of the matchups and teams that are more likely to win the league than others and stuff like that. So if you want to check that out, those are the episodes to look at, 2 and 3. And these games are kicking off on the first weekend of May. So it's just around the corner. So if you want to get yourself up to date, check out those episodes. If you also want to get more involved, check out my Instagram. That's normally where I post a lot of things that are happening in Ontario, happening across Canada. You learn more about the Canadian rugby scene. So that's always a good shout if you want to dive into the scene a bit more. Now, we're going to start with the Marshall side of things, and we'll start with the Premiership. These games are going to be intense, and there's a lot of things happening, which I'm super excited to kind of address. But we'll start with the one that I think is going to be one of the highlight games of the weekend, which is going to be the Brantford Harlequins versus London St. George. Now, Brantford Harlequins won the McCormick Cup, so the top a cup that you can win in this league, and London St. George had just been promoted from the Marshall Championship, winning the Fall Cup. So it's McCormick Cup winner versus the Fall Cup winner. And the last time these two teams encountered was back in 2024. The scoreline was 45-7 in favour of Brantford Harlequins. Now, Brantford have massive depth in their squad. They have a lot of individuals making a lot of commitments to this team, both on and off the pitch. And we've seen them achieve many achievements over the last decade, especially with McCormick Cup wins. So they'll have that advantage as well as home advantage heading into this one. London St. George, on the other hand, have made massive progress since their last encounter. They've gotten themselves promoted. They were very competitive last year. They are a team that's always building and stuff like that, and even being down at the grounds two times last year, or the year before as well. I was down there for a bit. It's very interesting to see how the mindset of this club is happening, how they're shaping up the culture that's being built at this club. And it was a very enjoyable time that I had down there for the games as well as their banquet. Now, who do I think is going to win? I think Bradford probably have that advantage. They've been so dominant, as I said, McCormick Cup winners. I think, though, the scoreline is going to be a lot narrower. I don't think it's going to be a big 45-7 win. I think it's going to be a bit closer in that regard, but I would be sliding towards Brantford to get the win. Now, Waterloo versus Toronto Scottish. The last time these guys encountered was last season, where Waterloo at their home game won 54-19, and they will be home for this encounter with the Toronto Scottish. So they finished top of the table last season in the Premiership. They had a 100% win rate at home. So I believe that's big stepping stones for them. It's going to be a big indicator to kind of say that they have the power to start off the season right and get the win over the Toronto Scottish. So that's why I'm going to go for Waterloo to get the job done there. Now, Aurora versus Bambi Beach. Last time these guys encountered, It was here in Aurora for this matchup was 48-14 with Aurora winning that fixture. Now, Aurora is going to be eager to win this game because if they win, they'll have won against Bama Beach three times in a row. Um, but you can't write out Bama Beach. You just never can write them out. They've won several McCormick Cups. They hold the most McCormick Cups ever. And they're a team that's always fighting. They have a huge culture in the Ontario scene, and you've got to just keep an eye out for them because they can shake things up. But I am going to go to Aurora this time out. But generally, I think this is one of the tighter ones, which I'm kind of putting a question mark over myself, being like, this could go either way. I'm a bit less sure about it. But I'd be more inclined to say Aurora to get the job done. Now, the Crusaders versus the Centaurs, Oakville versus Burlington, as they say. This is the one of the biggest rivalries in grassroots level across Canada. This is one that if I was to make a list of the top five, this one is definitely up there. Um, the last time these two teams battled out at the Crusaders' home ground, it was a win for the Crusaders, 46-34. But last time when it was Burlington versus Crusaders at Burlington's home ground, Burlington won it. So last year they had one apiece in terms of wins and winning their home games. Um, so I expect this game to be fairly heated. As I said, this is one of the biggest rivalries out there. So I'm gonna go with the Crusaders due to the fact their winning percentage at home was over 70%. And I think they're gonna start off on the right foot and get the win at home to start the season. Now we're going to dive into the Marshall Championship. And there's a couple of interesting fixtures already in this one. And we'll start with the one that I'm going to be kind of looking at as two teams that I think are going to be the top two teams are definitely in the top three, which is Bytown Blues and Peterborough Pagans. Now, last time they battled each other in Bytown's home ground, it was 40-31 for Bytown. Bytown did start off rough last season, so this is something to take into consideration when making your own predictions. But they did end up on a high note. Now, there was a few different factors. Was it the fact that it was the first time in a long while that the Eastern Ontario Rugby Union had a team in the Marshall, or was it just not finding their footing, playing a different competition? Was it the distance travelled for those first few games? Even though they did start off with a home game in Bytown home ground. So there was those little bit of elements of not knowing the competition, having different traveling and stuff like that. Was that going to be a massive factor? They did finish quite high on the table last year. And as I said, they ended on a high note. Now, Peterborough, on the other hand, they finished second last year. They were runners up for the Fall Cup, losing to London St. George on that final game in London. So they will be favourites to start this competition as to claim that top spot, claim promotion into the Premiership, and they're quite a competitive team. So I think, who do I pick? Really, these two teams are going to be quite fierce. I think if Bytown start off right, I think they're going to take the W home. I think that's the way I'm looking at it right now. I think it's going to be quite a tight contest between these two sides. It could go either way, to be honest with you. But I'm going to go with Bytown to get the job done, is what my prediction is, and I'm sealing it into place. So I'm not changing that prediction, but that's one that I'm kind of like it could go either way. Now, Markham Irish versus the Oshawa Vikings. This one is a bit fun because the last time these two teams battled each other was back in 2023, where the scoreline was a bit more one-sided, 82-3 to the Vikings at the Vikings home ground. So it was a big game in terms of score points wise, but in favor of the Vikings. But things have changed since 2023. We've seen the Vikings just get demoted from the Premiership to the Championship this year. Markham have moved up to the Championship in 2020, or were in the Championship last year in 2025. And now we're going to play their second season there and have been quite competitive in the league. So it's very interesting. Who's going to win? The team that got demoted, the team that's been, claiming the ranks. I'm going to go with Markham to get the job done. I think their winning percentage last year was 80%, while the Vikings were a low 14% away from home. So that is kind of the deciding factor for me. I also think Markham will be eager to show up and say to the Vikings that you're not going to win us, or you're not going to defeat us, my apologies, by 82 points to three. So that's one definitely to be looking out for, if you're an American fan or a Vikings fan, to get revenge or just absolutely uh, defeat the opposition. Now, Guelph versus Niagara. This is another one that I believe it's a rivalry. It's probably not as well known as like Burlington versus Crusaders, but this one definitely is a rivalry within the NRU. And the last time these two teams played each other was back in 2024. Now, last time out, Guelph had won 49 to 21, was the scoreline, and it's going to be a very interesting matchup. Um, as Guelph will be eager to show the rest of the league that they're able to fight in this league. They're able to get wins early and show that they're very competitive. Niagara, on the other hand, are building on what they delivered last season. They did a fantastic job, and they'll be wanting to fight for those top three positions in the league. So that's where their kind of agenda will be. Obviously, everybody's agenda is to get to the top, but I think that's a good stepping stone for them to definitely be in that top three bracket this year. Now, I'm going to pick Niagara due to the fact that this team always loves to show me up and prove me wrong. And I have a fear now of, if I've said it now, I've said it out loud. It's now set in stone. It's on the internet. So if I get this wrong and they make a bags of it, I am going to be really disappointed. But this team has always been a team that's given surprises, given wins early. They're a fighting team, and I think they can do it against Guelph to start the competition for themselves in the Marshall Championship. Now, last one in the Marshall is Ajax versus the Toronto Nomads. These two teams are going to be a lot of fun to watch because last time out, in this fixture, the Nomads ended out as the top dogs away from home, 19 to 25. Now, Ajax has a bigger winning percentage comparing to the Nomads. They had won 60% of their home games, while the Nomads had won 40% of their away games. But the Nomads do have McCormick Cup winning Patrick Molson in charge this season, which makes me believe that the Nomads will take home the W. And that's what I'm going with. I think Patrick Molson is a very talented coach, plenty of experience in it. You've seen me talk about him on previous episodes, or you can catch the snippet on my Instagram reels. He's a very talented coach, and I think he's going to make waves in this league this year for the Nomads. Now, let me know in the comments right now. Go down, type it in. Which of these predictions you think I got completely wrong so far? Because I know there's at least one there that people are like, you've got this wrong. You're way out of order. You're not, good at this. But I think I'm right. I'm 100% right. I know I'm right. Can't beat me. But let me know. Let me know if you think I've got them wrong. I do want to hear it at the same time. I want to get your opinions. But I'm fairly confident so far. Fairly confident. Now, we're diving into the owl, and I am interested to see how this all shapes up too, because these opening rounds are going to be very interesting. They're going to be eye-opening for both the Premiership and the Championship. But we're going to dive into the Premiership straight away. Guelph versus Nomads. Now, this one, last time they met, Guelph had won 58 to 5. Guelph have won several Owl Championships in the last couple of years, and they seem like an unstoppable team. They've just been winning, winning, winning. They had their first hurdle, as in their first loss last season in a long while, and that was a big shocker to the system. So that's a big thing to be looking at, that they can be defeated. But it's going to be very interesting to see how they play out. But they would be favourites coming into this. Now, the only secret weapon that the Nomads have, from my understanding, is the new head coach, Lucy Brown. She has, a bit of international experience in terms of with the PWR, and we've talked about her on the show. She's very talented coming over. It's first time coaching a team in Canada, so I'm super excited to see how she fares up. But this could be an important part of the puzzle for them to challenge Guelph this year. I think though. If we're talking about who I think is going to win, I think Guelph is probably the favorites. I think they're going to be the winners. I think it's just going to be less comfortable. I have a feeling it's going to be less comfortable than what they had last year. But that's where I'm kind of going. Now Scarborough versus Brantford Harlequins. Last time out, these teams battled it. It was a triple digit win for the Harlequins. It was a scoreline of 116 to 5. So it's a very uncommon scoreline, but that was the way things unfolded. Um, I'm hoping for a tighter game this season for this matchup. But I think the Brantford Harlequins are going to get the W regardless. But I'm hoping for a tighter contested game. Now, the Vikings versus Aurora Barbarians in the Owl Premiership. Last time these sides played was for the third place playoff last year, where Aurora took the win 34 to 3. I have Aurora to take home the win again this time around. Now, the Owl Championship is going to be a lot of fun as well. It's very interesting because before the end of the season, we were expecting two new teams to appear due to the fact that East and West had teams being demoted, and that was not the case. Both those teams got back into the championship. So they're going to be the exact same teams, but there's going to be a lot of revenge stories happening this time about. Now, Kingston Panthers are going to be playing Peterborough Pagans to start it off. Last season, Peterborough won the clash 42 to 22. They placed second last year, Peterborough, and I think they will take the win in this battle against the Kingston Panthers. Belleville Bulldogs versus the Ottawa Irish. In the last matchup between these two, Ottawa had won 61 to nil. Ottawa was unbeaten last year, and I expect them to do it again with a win against Belleville. Waterloo County versus Toronto Scottish. Last time out, Scottish had won away from home 24 to 41. Jeffrey MacDonald is going to be taking charge of the Scottish this year and will be wanting a positive start. So that's going to be an interesting factor there of how he's going to manage the squad. Is he going to lead this squad to better days? So I expect them to kind of rock the boat. These two sides are very competitive. And as we kind of looked at last year, the west side of this competition for the championship is very, very tightly contested. All these teams can beat each other on any given day. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds for Waterloo and the Toronto Scottish. But I'm going with the Scottish to get the job done. Now, London St. George are going to be facing Burlington Centaurs. Last time these guys faced each other, London came out on top away from home 32 to 49. Now expect London to get the win again to start the season off right. It's just going to be another interesting battle. As I said, the west side of things in the championship in the Owl is very, very competitive. And in rugby news across Canada, we got some coaching news to start off the talk of news across Canada. Barrhaven Scottish have announced Aaron MacDonald as head coach of the men's side for their upcoming season. Now, if you don't know Aaron, he's got 27 years of coaching experience. He started coaching over in the Maritimes, including Dalhousie University and St. Mary's University. He's part of a three-time winning Ontario U17's national championship winning teams. He had been assistant coach for both Canada U18s and U20s women's. He won the Eastern Ontario Rugby Union Junior Club Championship in 2022, Canadian Coach of the Year in 2019, the New York Sevens champion with Eastern Ontario, and the Canada Summer Games gold medal with Ontario. And he also has completed the World Rugby Level 3 certification. So he's got a lot of experience under his belt. It's a very mixed bag of experience. It's not just club rugby, it's a mix of provincial rugby, international rugby, university rugby. He's had that experience. He's had even summer games rugby in Canada, which a lot of coaches don't have the same experience as that, and being a gold medal winner. So he's going to be super excited to be taking charge of the Barrhaven Scottish. This team was very competitive last year. They are definitely building a culture that wants to compete, wants to get into the Marshall. I feel like they want to get promoted. They just missed out last year by the skin of their teeth. But I think they're going to be very competitive. I think this could be their year, and I think our McDonald is the man to get the job done for them. Now, in rugby across Ontario, as a whole, rugby is growing. I feel like since I've been doing this and since I've been documenting and covering and stuff like that, I've definitely seen a rise of rugby. I see a different um, side to people's personalities. When I first started talking to people about rugby, a lot of them was like, it's on the downhill, things aren't going our way. Like, you look at the international stuff, it's not working. That was the mindset I had talking to different individuals was their mindset about it. And I feel now, after me doing a bit of documenting and doing some Instagram posts and, trying to be here on social media, the scene is growing a lot more and we're a bit more connected and we're a bit more understanding of how things should slightly change to benefit both leagues, clubs, and the culture for everybody. And one of these clubs that has been booming, has been growing massively, and is in need of help from the community is Brock RFC. So they have launched their $100,000 green space capital funds with the goal of building new pitches and training areas to support their rapid growing fan base or player base. My apologies. Um, they're facing real challenges right now. Both because one, they only have one grounds at the moment. They've one pitch. They want to expand it to two. They are having trouble with, accommodating games. They, depending on the different levels, age groups, scheduling training sessions, and matches then having to be placed somewhere else or waited later or having those issues. And they simply just need another pitch. So the plan is that this project start in June 2026, and the target for them in this campaign is to have it all completed by August 2027. So they are certainly looking for sponsorship opportunities. You know, if you're looking to help, if you're looking to sponsor a club, if you want to grow grassroots rugby, and have the funds to do so, or just want to grow the sport across the board like me, this is definitely one way to do it. And Brock has been definitely a growing community, and I think with this extra pitch, they're going to be a stronger team, more competitive in the TRU, and we could see them in the Marshall someday too. This project isn't just about, oh yeah, give this team another pitch and make them grow or whatever, and it won't help anybody else. But this helps competition. It helps the hundreds of local players in Brock, and family members getting to the games, watching the games, timing them out, scheduling and whatnot, and helps them build a better rugby community. And that trickles down into game days, matches where we'll see a more competitive Brock, because they'll have more depth, they'll have more trained individuals to play higher level matches. Um, and this is for the next generation of rugby players. This is for the youth. And this is what real grassroots looks like. It's about helping each other and making sure we can, if you've got a plan in place to grow the sport, whether it's with a new clubhouse, new pitches, whether it's, we should be there to help each other at the same part. So do check out Brock RFC to find more information on different ways to sponsor the club, how you can help. But yeah, definitely look into that, because I'm very interested already. Now, in international news, and I forgot to mention it last week in terms of the Pacific Four, but Rugby Canada's women's are playing against USA in the final round of the Pacific Four on Friday. So today, when this episode airs, so go, Canada. We want them to win. I want them to get big W. They have been an absolute inspiration for our youth, our both in our women's and the men's, being like, we can achieve gold, we can achieve um or medals, sorry, not gold. But we can achieve, big achievements, whether it's in the Olympics, whether it's in the World Cup, whether it's in competitions like this where, you know, we're a very competitive team, and it's very important for us to support the women's. So do watch the game, have a good laugh. If you have a few beers in you, do enjoy yourself. Um, but I just want to say they've been doing fantastic across the board. So I wish them the best of luck. Um, this week. We also have the Six Nations on at the moment with the women's. For that, if you're interested in the Six Nations, it's been quite competitive so far. It's quite interesting, and especially I think I'm more interested in it this year due to the fact of the World Cup. I've always known about the Women's Six Nations. Don't get me wrong. Um, just haven't had the time to cover it as much as I'd like to. But I feel that with the World Cup happening last year, with the amount of eyes and attraction to the game, and with the individuals that made it so entertaining, I think we're seeing a lot of people more interested in the Six Nations games, and we're seeing the attendance records break for different games for across the board. So it's really good to see that as well. That women's rugby is growing so much on the international sphere now. You know what time it is. It's the closing time, so I'm going to go through my little piece. But if you did enjoy this episode, make sure you hit the follow button, make sure you hit the subscribe button. This helps other people know that this is a legit podcast that we talk about rugby, we talk about Canadian rugby. Um, if you're in Spotify, do 5 stars on the review. That's very important. It's to make sure that people get to see it a bit more. If they're on Spotify and they're looking for a podcast and they're like, "Oh, what's this about?" and they click it on, and we might get a few more ears and eyes on the podcast if you're watching on YouTube. Now, if you want to be a part of the show, and I mentioned it on my Instagram story on Monday, I'm looking for interviews. There's a few individuals I've lined up. I'm going to be start scheduling, but I want to have a nice list of individuals so I can go through them and have that chat, so that we are consistently doing interviews and able to talk about rugby and getting a better picture of what the scene is about. Because I can talk rugby galore, but if I don't have the individuals who are part of it, who are like in the nitty gritty, from down to the books to on the field decisions, to the refs, the coaches, the players, the president, the barman in the clubhouse, whatever it might be. I want to know those people, and I think it'd be interesting to get more of those stories. So if you do want to get involved, make sure you email me at seanryanradio@gmail.com. Nice and easy for you. And if you do want to help me cover Canadian rugby, do check my Ko-Fi. I mentioned it at the start. Keeps the podcast running, keeps it makes it easier for me to do this sort of stuff, and give you great content at the same time. Now, the next episode, we will dive into more exciting rugby across Canada. As I said, we're hoping to do our first interview in this new studio next week. So hopefully we get that lined up, have somebody ready. We'll probably have somebody ready by the time this episode airs. But until then, I'm Sean Ryan Radio, or Sean Ryan, whichever way you want to pronounce it. And this has been Pitchside. Boom!